Ryan and Lisa. Mornings on CFAX 1070. Remember, you have us in the palm of your hand. For listeners on the go, listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
All right, let's get into some BC and federal politics with Alec Lazenby, legislative reporter with the Vancouver Sun. Thanks for joining me here, Alec. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
We had a whole bunch of things we wanted to talk to you about, from like dam announcements last week from the BC government. But now I'd really like to talk to you about this thing that kind of came up on late last week. So we, of course, had the Prime Minister in town, and he was there for the big World Cup game and a lot of focus on the soccer. But he was also making a housing announcement. And one of the things that's kind of crept out of this that I think a lot of people have been talking a bunch about over the weekend is this condo thing. It's an idea, and I don't know much about it, but I'd love to get you to explain a bit more to me about this. So the federal government and the BC government kind of coming together to use some taxpayer dollars to buy vacant condo units and turn them into affordable housing. I know in Vancouver, and I believe Toronto's also kind of been famous for this. There's been this glut of condos that have gone unsold in at least those two markets, and this is, I guess, a plan to maybe turn some of those empty units into affordable housing. So, talk to us about what happened here.
Yeah, so I think it's a way for the province and the federal government to try to address some of these thousands of empty condos that are sitting in Vancouver, Metro Vancouver. CMHC says there's over 4,000 condos that are sitting empty. The housing market has changed. Many developers were building these shoebox condos that were costing upwards of $1 million a piece, and nobody was buying them. And so now the province and the federal government, I gather, are going, okay, we need more housing. We need more affordable housing. We've got all these units sitting empty. Why not go out and buy some of them? Now, the problem is they're looking at buying 2,200 units, which is a good number, but also much fewer than needed in terms of the number of affordable homes. But also at the same time, they're costing $1 million a unit. How much money is the province and the feds going to be spending on this? Is that a good use of the money? And I think that's a lot of the reaction so far. Is this, a handout to developers, or is this, to bail them out for bad business decisions, or is this actually going to move the needle on affordable housing and helping people get into places, making housing more affordable? There's still a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know at this point how the program is really going to work, although we've heard that up to $3 billion split between the province and the feds is going to be used to buy up to 2,200 units. So we'll have to wait for more details when they choose to release them.
Yeah, no, it's more details to come, but I think a lot of folks have been wondering exactly what you just said. If these units were built and they're not, the little shoebox for $1 million isn't meeting reality, why should the government be coming in to bail it out? Shouldn't those units just kind of come down in price by themselves, to something that's more reasonable for their size? Which I guess the problem with that is if a bunch of developers go out of business because of this change in the market and whatnot, that could be bad for the economy if we see a whole bunch of bankruptcies. But at the same time, is it government's place to step in and socialize the risk of things like development, which is in itself an inherently risky business? I could definitely see why this is getting a lot of people talking over the weekend and debating whether or not this is a good or bad use of money.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, the problem is that so much of our economy, especially in the Metro Vancouver region and partially in the Greater Victoria region as well, is tied up in real estate, is tied up in housing. And so if, the sector faces a significant downturn, that is going to be bad for the economy. At the same time, province and the federal government are wanting to bring down the cost of housing, while maybe not impacting people's property values as much, which is a hard needle to thread, and we've been seeing that with some property values going down. But it's hard to see how this program works, and whether, and a lot of people are questioning whether it's a good idea to be spending $1 million per unit on some of these empty condos that were built when the housing market was different and now are sitting empty because times have changed and people aren't looking or can't afford to buy the shoebox apartments for $1 million.
Yeah, and a lot of them, I mean, I think the argument would be were built for investments or for Airbnbs or those kind of situations rather than being, thing people actually would live in. And that's one of the issues we've got. Anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole. One last question on that. It is Vancouver specifically, right? It's not like they're going to be doing this in Victoria. This is a Vancouver thing for the condos. It is all of BC's taxpayer money and all of Canada's taxpayer money if the federal government's involved, but it's just Vancouver condos they're talking about, right?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. One last thing. We're almost out of time already, but I did want to talk hydro dams because last week as well, BC government talking about maybe more dams. We got the Site C Dam, now the John Horgan Dam completed. Could there be another one? What did we learn from the BC government last week?
Yeah, so Energy Minister Adrian Dix said that the province is looking at Site E, a site down on the Peace River near the Alberta border for a possible next hydro dam after the John Horgan Dam, otherwise known as the Site C Dam, which is now complete, as the province looks to increase its energy capacity, which is ever-growing with an ever-growing population. Also, some dams are facing droughts. So there's a big need for electricity. Now, it's a long way off. This is just, saying that we're thinking about this. They still need to amend the legislation to even allow the dam to move forward, not to mention talk to potentially affected landowners, First Nations, figured out a budget, figure out all of that with, the Site C Dam ended up being double what the original estimate was. And so does the province have the money to build this right now? And so there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that need to be ironed out before it can move forward. So I imagine, they're starting to think about it, but I imagine it's something that's going to be many, many years down the road before it comes to any sort of fruition.
That's a good perspective to have on it. They're floating the idea, but it's not like they're going to start putting shovels in the ground anytime soon on any kind of new dams here in BC. But yeah, do we need that? It's an idea the government is talking about. And Alec Lazenby is the legislative reporter with the Vancouver Sun covering all this. We got to let you go because we're out of time, but thanks so much for giving us the update on those stories.
Thanks so much for having me, Ryan.